name is Seth Swirsky, and I've loved the Beatles since I was a small boy in the 1960s. Those times were just amazing, and the Beatles were everything to me. And it's why I became a songwriter and recording artist myself. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to play the Cavern Club in Liverpool, England, the place the Beatles made famous in their early days. While I was there, a number of people told me some great stories about them that I had never heard before, and I remember thinking, how many more of these incredible stories are out there? And how much fun would it be to buy a video camera and try to find those stories? And that's exactly what I did over the next 12 months of my life. Hi, this is Seth Swirsky, and you are watching Fire Pit Friday.
Hi everyone, and welcome to Fire Pit Friday Los Angeles episodes. Now, this is kind of very interesting and wonderful, and it's beautiful and exciting, but you know, it's a show for artists, by artists, and I have found an artist for you, Fire Pitters, here in beautiful sunny California. So, you want to get to know him better? His name is Seth Swirsky, and he has welcomed us into his home so we can learn more about him as an artist, as a person, director, producer, singer, songwriter. He's an everything sort of person. And let's go pick his brain a little bit about what is it like to be Seth Swirsky. Come on, let's go.
I have a whole lot of balls in the air that I'm thinking about. Mm-hmm. It's one of the phases of my existence, really. Mm-hmm. And there's, maybe I will write that musical. Or maybe I will turn these letters into a book, or maybe I will write that, that album, and I have these different ideas for things, and it's the one I end up choosing, because I know I'm going to date them for 2 or 3 years, is the one that flirts back with me. When I did the baseball letters book, I started writing letters to baseball players. Mm-hmm. The baseball players had gone on strike in the summer of '94. My first son, Julian, was born. I thought, if I write letters to these guys, and they're all home now because they're not playing baseball.
Right.
Then, that'll just be a fun thing that I can show my son later. Well, I got to tell you, the week after I had that thought and I wrote a few letters, I went to the mailbox and 7, 8, 9, 10 letters start coming back to me, all beneath my original letter, and they weren't form letters. I had looked them up, I'm interested, And so I got them all back and I put them in a notebook, just like a 9th grade notebook, put pictures with them, I was having fun, faxed them to friends, like, did you know that this guy really felt this way? And then those letters just ended up getting to an agent at William Morris, who got me a book deal. Everybody told me later when the book Baseball Letters came out and it was reviewed in the New York Times and this and that, and it was obviously extremely thrilling. Mm-hmm. I didn't know it was going to be anything other than a book of my letters, which I was thrilled with to begin with. But everybody said to me in every interview, I must have done at least 500 interviews, and everybody said, that was such a brilliant idea. I'm in the sports world and I should have thought of that. And I always say to them, it really wasn't. I thank you for the compliment. Very nice of you. But it really wasn't a brilliant idea. It was just a person doing something that they enjoyed doing and that they took to another level. The work is flirting back with me. Right. Those letters, those players' histories were calling me to research them and to write.
You have your music.
Yes.
All right. So are you applying any music attributes to your documentary?
That's a great question. And I think that I do apply certain things to other things. Mm-hmm. I try to keep the interviews that are in A Year in the Life, the Beatles
Mhm.
documentary.
Mhm.
Short and to the point.
Okay.
I try to keep my songs at about 2.5 minutes or 3 minutes. I like
Okay.
something that's somewhat, not very short, because
Mhm.
that would be a commercial, that would be a jingle.
Mhm.
And I don't like something that's very kind of overindulgent,
Mhm.
4 or 5 minute songs.
Mhm.
If you can't say it in 2.5 minutes, I'm about melody,
Yeah.
you know. So I try to apply that to things like letters. Which letters did I choose for my books?
Mhm.
They were the ones that they didn't have to make history. They didn't have to. They just had to vibe.
Yeah.
I really want people to sing my songs.
Yeah.
And so I try very hard to make song after song, especially in the Red Button. You're aware of that
Yeah,
record?
yeah.
So I'm working with a partner, Mike Rickberg, and
Mhm.
we are just, we can't just put out another album in 6 months, just whip it up.
Right.
We take so much time making the songs because we honor songwriting of a certain period, let's say 1964 through,
Right.
74, just in that era. We're not trying to be that,
Mhm.
but we just happen to love that music very much. So we're trying to just write songs that are honest. That's why I go into my 3-year-olds. I have 3 kids, but even with my 13-year-old, I have a 13, a 5, and a 3.
Mhm.
But I've always gone into their classes when they've been in preschool,
Mhm.
brought my guitar, and I said, we're going to write a song today because I want to take out the myth of songwriting,
That's sweet.
and I just want to get them to know that they can do it at an early age. And I just strum some chords, and I point to a kid, and I say, what did you do this morning? Well, I got up, and I didn't want to go to school, and my mom made me wear this shirt. I said, well, sing that, sing, that's great, sing that. And I play some chords, and they sing, and the kids laugh. But what it is, and then I go to the next kid, and they continue this song. The point of it being that if you just are not embarrassed to turn on a tape recorder and play and sing
Just
your
do it.
truest emotions
Yeah.
at the time, it's hard to get to that place. Writing, I'll use the term writing, but whatever it is, if you're making a documentary or making a book or making a song or writing a screenplay or whatever you happen to be doing, so many people don't know that almost anybody can do it. When they say, well, I'm not born to make music or to do these things. You can do it. Anybody really can do it. It's just a matter of confidence.
Yeah.
When people always ask me about the music business these days. It's so bad, you can't get a record deal, and there's so few record companies, and blah, blah, blah. I said, for every time you think something is so bad, that means there's probably something so good on the other side.
Oh.
And I think what's so good is when there's the MySpaces and iTunes and all these things that people can create their own music and put it up. Think about how small a studio has to be. It can be on your desk. You can make a good sounding thing and get it up in 2 seconds.
Great
and
point.
people hear you.
Yes.
And you feel like if there's one person out there listening, I want to make another. And that is healthy for the world.
Yes, so I'd like to focus on your memorabilia, your
Yeah.
baseball memorabilia. When did you first find out this is something that is a passion of mine?
Yeah, great question. I had started writing these letters, as I mentioned, and that became my first book, Baseball Letters, which are the actual handwritten letters of many famous and not famous baseball players, but people who have a great story that wrote in their own hand. All these letters are coming back to me. And I noticed that some guys, when I got some of their pictures to go with the letters, I would make note of their uniforms. Wow, the uniforms they wore back then, and the gloves they used, and the different things in the stadiums. I would get pictures to match the letters. And then somebody sent me an auction catalog, and I saw a uniform of a guy who had written a letter, and I thought to myself, wow, I really feel as if I've got to know, because when you write letters, you get to know somebody. It's an intimate thing.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, boy, it's not that expensive. I think I'll buy that uniform, and maybe well, long story short, I did buy that uniform. I sent it to the player, and he signed it for me in the tail of the uniform. And I just thought, this is very enjoyable. And as time went on, I noticed that there were things available, not just through auctions, but through people who started to know me through my books. And I was being offered things like the ball that went through Bill Buckner's legs in the '86 World Series, or Joe Jackson, the letter that was written to Shoeless Joe banning him from baseball for throwing the World Series. crazy things.
Mm-hmm.
So my love of history and baseball kind of collided. I was
Mm-hmm.
doing these books, and I just found I really enjoyed owning the pieces. And I tried to make a collection that had a little bit of soul to it. I noticed that there are a lot of baseball players with colors in their names.
Okay.
So I made the color ball. Dick
Yeah.
Green signed in green, and Red Shane signed in red, and Joe Black signed in black. It's colorful baseball.
That makes it special to your project.
It makes it special to my collection.
Yeah.
Mickey Mantle. I thought the quintessential baseball name is Mickey.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, you don't really hear of Mickeys in football or
No.
Mickeys in basketball. Mickeys in baseball, they work,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I got Mickey Mantle to sign a baseball, and I got 24 other guys whose name are Mickey that play baseball to sign the baseball.
When you've cultivated your art,
Yeah.
when you've taken your specific art and you've researched it,
Yeah.
and you have the appreciation and love of history, it seems as the end product now is well-rounded, and I think that's what I'm seeing in Seth.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I've definitely seen it.
Also,
in your
you
work.
must inject part of the whole process of all of this, whatever project it is, it's got to be fun.
Yeah.
See, because
yeah.
I know that when I wrote that letter to Ted Williams to be in my book, I thought to myself, what could I write that when I get that letter back, hopefully, and I see that it's from Ted Williams, that while I'm opening it, I'm thinking, now I wrote him that. If he answered that, it's not just asking for an autograph. It's trying to find the right question, as you are doing. If that person answers that, then you have something.
I love the way you interview. The clips that I've seen of your movie coming out, I really, really like the way you interview. I almost I emulate, in a sense, your style of interviewing because it's so relaxed and natural and honest. I've never had a bad experience either. Trying to stay on the positive things is what.
Well, I think it's very clear from your interviewing that you're a warm person. That's important. And you're interested in your subject.
Yeah, very.
And that's so important. And it's not just that the subjectee is flattered, because that's part of it. But I think that the fact that in this world where so many things are coming at us at one time, you've got 5 emails in your BlackBerry, and it's all happening, that if you can really get into that other person's life, and then a person will want to talk about that.
Exactly, and that's part of loving history and kind of being a historian before the Blackberries.
Boy, nothing gives me more pleasure than just having a good conversation with somebody.
Exactly.
And by the way, all the people that are in my books, all the famous people in baseball, and all the people that even that wrote for my 3rd book, Something to Write Home About, that I don't know personally. President George W. Bush, Paul McCartney wrote a letter. Lots of very interesting people in the world. And all the people I interviewed for my movie that I always wanted to meet, Justin Hayward of the Moody Blues, and Art Garfunkel, and all these interesting people. I don't want to be friends with them. I'm not doing it so that we can build up this friendship, and maybe I can write a song with that one, or maybe I can go to a game with Brooks Robinson, or maybe it's not that. The fantasy really is, I think, spending an afternoon. And that's why I try in my documentary or in my books, you see Dear Seth, they're writing back to me, but I try to take myself out of it as much as I can. It's not really about me. On the other hand, I was the conduit that got you to meet this person in a different way.
It's interesting.
So it's a matter of a balance. I don't really have to be the star in it, but I like that I can be a little bit of an everyman in the fact that maybe people will think when they see the documentary, hey, I would have asked that question. I'm glad he asked that question.
Yes.
He's in Brian Wilson's house. There's his Grammy Award, and he's excited. I would be too.
Yeah, it's a good feeling. The other passion that you have, producing and directing, and you have a movie coming out, A Year in the Life. And I think the topic is intriguing, but tell me a little bit about how did you get to that topic? The Beatles, of course, we're talking about. So.
Right. As I mentioned to you, I wrote a few letters to baseball players in the early 90s, and they responded. So something was going. No, there was no book idea. I was just enjoying it. It became that.
Right.
In the fall of 2004, and that led to 3 books.
Right.
Okay.
Which you can purchase all of these. These are still for
Oh
sale.
yeah, they're all on my site.
Okay.
So, and you can see what they look like.
Okay.
In the in the fall of 2004, I was asked to play at the Cavern Club in Liverpool, which was a huge thrill. You can imagine.
Huge, yeah.
It was a big thrill. My album had just come out, my solo record. Not the Red Button, but Seth as an artist. Instant Pleasure is the name of the album. I played the Cavern Club, and I just brought my video camera, and I'm in Liverpool. This is crazy. And I went on a little bus trip to see the sights, and there I'm at John Lennon's house and Paul McCartney's house, and every time the bus guy, the tour guide, would tell a story, he could see that I was asking questions on the side, and he would always let me walk with him a little ahead of the path.
Okay, he knew you were very interested.
Yes, he knew I knew a little bit more, and that I just was hungry to find out stuff. Again, no documentary in mind. I'm not a documentarian, but I wasn't a bookmaker. I wasn't a songwriter at one point too. You are when you are.
I love that.
You don't have to go to school for it.
Yeah,
You
I love that.
You have to have passion and a camera.
Right.
It's basically what it all is in life. Just make things. Just make them, you know? So this guy just told me some fantastic stories. I got back to LA, and I just was on the internet, and I saw that May Pang, John Lennon's girlfriend from the period when he was separated from Yoko Ono in the mid-70s, 73, 74, she was making jewelry, and I thought, wow, I was just in the Cavern Club, and I don't know what made me email her. But I remembered that we had a connection, a friend. Okay. But I never would have done it before. But I felt, after coming back from Liverpool, a little bit closer to the Beatles. And I emailed May, and I just said, we have a friend in common, and I admire your work, and just nice to email you even. It's kind of, you know. And she emailed me this whole long email back, and I couldn't believe it. Wow, this was John Lennon's girlfriend. So she said in her email, I'm coming out to LA, and maybe you want to film me, and I'll take you to all the sites where John and I, when we got off the plane, I'll show you the first apartment we lived in.
Wow.
So I got a film crew. I didn't know how to make a documentary at the time, so I got a couple of guys to sit in the back with the camera. I didn't know quite how to do it. I had my own camera, whatever. We went all over LA. She told all the stories. And I didn't know what I had at that time. I really didn't. I thought, is this a documentary on the lost weekend, the love of May and John? Is this... I didn't know. You don't know. You're kind of making it as it goes. I didn't know what the letters were.
This is amazing.
I didn't know what the songs were for my first album. I just started writing them. Will I give them to other people? Are they mine? The point is, just keep doing what you're doing, and it will find its way. It will flirt back.
Yes.
And then I thought, you know... am I really going to do this? You know, the Beatles, how am I ever going to do a documentary of the Beatles? Their music is impossible to license. It's a fortune to do. No one's going to tell me who they don't know, you know, these stories. But then I thought, what's going to win the day and make me actually do it is, I think I might have an opportunity here to meet everybody I've ever really wanted to meet. And that alone, you know. So before I knew it, I'm in a hotel room in Justin Hayward from the Moody Blues, who I've admired so much. I mean, Tuesday Afternoon and Question and Nights in White Satin, you know, right? And I'm there in a hotel room, and you could see from the raw footage, and whenever my DVD comes out, there's going to be a lot of raw footage because it's really fun.
Oh, I can't wait, actually.
It's really fun, and you're going to see how my assistant and me set up the room with, we took a table lamp and put it next to him. I mean, here's Justin Hayward, who's been interviewed every day since 1967, with all the lights and the makeup and everything, and there's a light next to him. How cool is this guy that he'd never even commented? The sun's going down, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get this? But whatever. I just thought that's the joy of it in a way, that it is just a guy and his camera getting these Beatles stories. You know? And that's why I continued with it. It was like collecting the letters, collecting the interviews in a way. And then thinking as I was going along, how am I going to actually make this? Because these stories are really, everybody who tells you a story, it's always 10 minutes. A story is always 5 to 10 minutes. When they veer and then they come back and all that stuff. But I thought to keep people's interest in this thing, each story has to be like a minute to a minute and a half.
Just like you said earlier, you keep it simple and straight to the point. And
keep it simple, and you can use B-roll and pictures, photographs that go with their story that is not so MTV and it's quick cuts. I'm not trying to be stylistic in it. I'm just trying to make it so that Beatle fans will really enjoy it, or their dates who don't know that much about the Beatles and maybe they're only 20 or 23.
See, now that's a part of your history, you being a historian coming back out again, because now you may be introducing brand new footage.
That's exactly right, and I thought that the way I can get people that don't know from the Beatles is injecting myself a little bit in it so that they see, wow, he just knocked over the camera, or look how excited he is by this. I don't even know the Beatles that well, but God, the guy has so much passion with it. Maybe I gotta pick up that album or find out more. So that was the thing that made me continue to make this thing, because I was meeting Peter Noon from the Herman's Hermits, and I met Henry Winkler from, these actors. John Voight did an interview, and I'm thinking, God, I grew up watching these movies. It became a culture thing for me, and a lot of fun spending the afternoon. Well, not the
was
entire
everyone
afternoon.
open and willing and
Totally, I was in the house with these people. They didn't know me. They didn't know who I was. I mean, they heard. Some people helped connect me to them. You're looking at where I spend 95% of my life, in this seat, in this couch, just like my grandmother, 95 years old, still living, Mimi. She spent so much time on the left-hand side of her long green couch. And it's almost like a DNA thing. It's almost like I got that. I like to be here. Whether I'm writing the song, I'm on the computer, thinking of ideas of who to interview, editing. Yeah. I like to be in one place.
Well, you don't sit just on this couch completely when you're doing your artwork.
That's true.
I loved your statement on your website that said manic expressive.
What is a manic expressive?
Yeah.
It's somebody who feels the need to create all the time.
That's
and I
perfect.
really, really feel that need. I'm not actually manic in my creating. But what I am is, I also don't wait around. I don't wait around for whenever the spirit hits me, man, I'm like, you know what? If I have a dead moment, I think, I finish up that song that I always wanted to, or I can, maybe there's a baseball that needs to be signed maybe there's another Mickey.
Yeah, that could be. You never know, carry that ball with you.
That's right. There are all these. I think what I've done in my life is I've made it so that there's a number of different ways to be creative, so that when an idea is taking shape and it doesn't need me at that moment, I can burn off my creative energies by doing other things. It's easy to start something. It's easy to say, hey, I've got this great title for a song. Pick up a guitar and see what happens. All right, let's say you even got to that part. Oh, but the bridge, I can't come up with the lyrics for the bridge, and then the song sits, and the song doesn't get made because you're going to work every day and it gets lost and it's gone. When you come up with that idea, try to do it at the moment. Try to do it at the moment, because that's when you're flowing with the idea. Yeah. A song I wrote for Rufus Wainwright for this movie, Big Daddy. It was an Adam Sandler movie. I was sitting here.
In your green couch.
Saw my guitar over there, had an idea for a song, Instant Pleasure. Just off the idea of, God, Seth, you always need instant pleasure, whether you need to see what's on TV or a computer or whatever. Yeah. And I picked up a guitar and it just started to write itself.
Love to see some of your artwork. I would love to see some of your creations that I have collages. I would love to see some of those collages that you do.
This is one of my latest ones, although my kids have gotten to it. I have this long table, but I have all these pictures and letters and things that I want to see, but they end up in a file folder. So I ended up making a collage on the table.
This is cool. Conversation pieces.
Well, I actually call it Table of Contents, not contents, contents, because these things make me contented. Or make me content, as
and they're here in your
They are, but you can see that my kids have pushed this piece of glass so much that I have to redo it.
Your kids helped you with this, I'm sure, right?
No, they didn't.
No.
They're little. These are other paintings, and this is, little drawings and doodles that would have just ended up in a book, and my grandmother's house where I remember climbing in that window, whatever it happens to be. Just all these little moments. This is a fan letter from a small boy who liked one of my books and felt inspired to write to players. Things that give me pleasure to see. Because I'll tell you one other very quick little thing that fan letters that you get, or nice words from you or people, or however they come, even in an email. Artists, people need to be reminded that you're not an island.
Yeah.
When President Lincoln was assassinated, when they found his wallet, they opened it up and there were little snips of paper, letters from people that said, keep your chin up, everything's going to be okay. He went through a long war.
Yeah.
And that says that we all think of him as a strong person and stuff like that. He needed to hear from people that he was...
That's very intense.
In my very first book, Baseball Letters, in the preface, I kept the preface short. I like when people get to the work right away. I just want to get out of the way. I want to tell them what happened. It's only a couple of paragraphs.
Yeah.
But the major line in the preface that goes with what you're talking about now, that's important, is I said, my hopes for this book, I have no idea what will end up. But what I truly hope for is that one day a small child will go up to their grandparents' attic and discover this book. Like I used to go up to my grandmother's attic and discover all her books and her old magazines, and I was alone up there, and I found it. So when I thought that was my goal, that really made me, it made every letter and everything I was doing take on another meaning. I just saw a 10-year-old boy in the year 2100 in an attic of his grandparents. I didn't see, wow, all these Wall Street guys, they're going to love this book, and all these wives are going to buy it for their husbands, and let's print up 100,000. I try to try to make small things beautiful.
That's great. I love meeting people like you, and this has
you.
been an honor, an honor to be here. And
very kind.
thank you very much.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, this is great. Wow, another warm Fire Pit Friday. Remember, everybody is welcome around the Fire Pit. All genres, all artists. It's about creation. And remember, finish your project.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Seth.
My pleasure.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
I said, can you believe this is all for you?
He said, no, I think it's Faringo. Faringo? Who's Faringo?
Faringo.
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 We
He
thought it was a
was-
Jewish holiday.
Baby's good to me, she's happy.
There's the Dakota across Central Park, and I have my great memory of John Lennon when I met him that one night.
It's one of these Ringo.
Here is the greatest band in the world, and I am playing Monopoly with the fabulous George Harrison, and I could not concentrate on my Monopoly game.